Good song for this segment. Have you ever felt exhausted while sitting on the couch only to find yourself wide awake the moment you crawl into bed? You are not alone, and it turns out there's a psychological explanation for this frustrating sleep phenomena. Licensed psychologist Lisa Strauss is here to share why this happens and how small habits have a very big impact on your sleep struggles. Oh, thank you very much for being here. This is a huge problem for people. It's so good. It feels so delicious.
People meaning.
It's so delicious to fall asleep on the couch. People love it. But you do struggle then to fall asleep when you're in bed. So how do you beat this?
So there are a few reasons that this happens, and the interventions depend upon the reason that somebody's experiencing this. So let me lay out some of the reasons that this occurs. One of them is that the effort involved in standing up, moving to the bedroom, having the mind re-engage brings us to wakefulness very rapidly. Whereas falling asleep, we then can take 10 to 20 minutes under supportive conditions. So there's this temporal asymmetry between how quickly we come to wakefulness and how long it takes us to fall back to sleep. So there's basically a starting over phenomenon. A second reason that this can happen is that people give themselves all kinds of responsibilities to fulfill once they become sleepy on the couch. So in more extreme circumstances, people will let the dog out and back in again. They'll be checking their email. But even those people whose main intention is just to get themselves to bed, they don't make a mere pit stop in the bathroom on the way to bed. They go into the bathroom under bright lights, which are stimulating. They'll take their medication, they'll put in their eye drops, they're washing up, then they go into the bedroom, then they put on their pajamas, they're having a conversation with their spouse. So there's this second shift, essentially, that they're working between sleepiness and trying to get to sleep.
So
Never talk to your spouse after 10 p.m.
Should people then crawl to bed with keeping their eyes closed to avoid this? What's the best way to transition from the couch to bed?
So let me address both of the reasons that I just gave you, and then I'll give you some more reasons too, and their interventions. But what you basically want to do is you want to catch yourself very early in the process of sleepiness. You don't want to have to sentence yourself to starting over again. Okay, so when you're starting to feel your breathing slow a little, your thinking slow, your eyes, it's a little harder to focus your eyes, that's when you want to get up and you want to go to bed. You also want to already be in your pajamas and have done everything before it's time to go to bed.
This is good. I'm going to use this for my daughter because she'll be sleepy on the couch, and then when I try to transition her, she's all awake and wants to party.
But talk about performance anxiety quick. We got 30 seconds, 45 seconds. When you get into your bed and you know you want to get to sleep right away and you're like, go to sleep, you can't.
Right. So performance anxiety sort of has three elements. One is feeling personally responsible for your sleep. Not, I hope I'm lucky, but I need to get myself to sleep or back to sleep. Second element is a focus on the goal, sleep. A third component of this is a focus on the stakes, because if I don't, something really bad could happen. And that is really bad. If you try to chase the squirrel of sleep, it will run away. It's very skittish.
You'll never
Let
catch
go.
it. I love that.
Let go and let it happen. Lisa Strauss, thank you so much for being here.
That was great, Lisa.
All right, so Tony, how did you sleep last night?
I sometimes don't sleep long enough, but I always sleep great, so I slept great.
Okay, I love that answer. Very positive. You're one of the lucky ones because 50 to 70 million Americans struggle with sleep disorders, and around 1/3 of adults don't get enough uninterrupted Z's. I feel like I'm in and out all night. Maybe that's because of the kids, or I don't know. But there is something you can do about it, and it might surprise you because sleep can actually be improved with better eating. And there are really specific things you can do to improve your sleep based on what you eat. There's a book called Eat Better, Sleep Better, and it is packed with practical tips and recipes that help promote a better night's rest. Dr. Marie-Pierre Saint-Onge is a nutritionist, a nutrition scientist, and the co-author of the book. Welcome, doctor. We're so glad to have you here. So when I first got the book, I thought to myself, eating and sleeping? Like, what? Really? Because we do a lot of things about sleep, and you get the blackout curtains and other things. But why is there such a direct link between what we eat and how we sleep?
Right, well, it's a vicious cycle, or a healthful cycle, depending on how you look at it, right? So how you sleep at night influences what you choose to eat during the day, the next day. When we have poor sleep at night, we often tend to gravitate over more snack-type foods, less healthy
Muffins,
foods.
definitely muffins for me.
Higher fat, higher sugar, typically, right? And those types of foods tend to lead to poor sleep at night. But the good news is, if you have healthful diet during the day, so higher fiber, less saturated fat, more fruits and vegetables and whole grains, that can lead to better sleep at night. And then when you have better sleep at night, it's easier to make healthful choices the next day.
One of the recommendations in the book is choose fiber. What are some easy ways people can choose fiber?
More fruits and vegetables, more legumes, so your chickpeas, white navy beans, black beans, more whole grains like barley, buckwheat, oats. Choosing the brown side of things, so brown rice, brown whole wheat pasta instead of the white.
So there's a key ingredient, because we've seen a lot of these foods that have been recommended for forever, that people should have. But you said there's a key ingredient called, help me here, tryptophan.
Tryptophan. This is famous on Thanksgiving.
Oh yeah, it's people say it makes you tired at Thanksgiving. What is tryptophan? How does it help with melatonin? And if there's one food that people should maybe know about that can help them, what would it be?
So everybody thinks about turkey when they think about tryptophan. Tryptophan is a component or a piece of a protein, basically. So protein foods will have tryptophan, but the important thing to note about this specific component is that it's what melatonin is made from. So you need tryptophan to be able to make melatonin. Melatonin, the hormone that helps you fall asleep. And the important thing about tryptophan is that we can only get it from food. It's not something that our bodies can produce. And so foods that contain melatonin include obvious turkey, but also other foods like salmon and chicken, different types of fish, some grains, pistachios, walnuts.
And you say in the book that just eating these foods high in tryptophan is not enough. You have to kind of do it strategically.
Right, so you need to have some carbohydrates to help the tryptophan get to the brain to produce melatonin.
So, but not like cake, like a...
Not like cake, no. Like the whole grains.
Yes, the grains we just talked about.
Complex carbohydrates.
You hear a lot of conflicting information out there about when people should eat their last meal and how big it should be. Do you recommend eating a big meal at breakfast and then a lighter meal at dinner, or is a big meal at dinner fine?
Right, so for heart health and better overall health, it's better to front load our calories, so having more food or bigger meals earlier in the day and smaller meals later in the day. But at the same time, for better sleep, you don't want to go to bed hungry. So making sure that your last meal is light, but not too light that you're...
How many hours before lights out?
Typically, the recommendation is about 3 hours.
Did your sleep improve when you wrote this book, and or after knowing? I know you've been researching this for your whole career, but how well do you sleep?
I sleep very well. Yeah. I tend to have a very regular schedule. That's something else too. Going to bed and waking up at the same time every day, and then having a healthy diet. Exercising is also very important for healthy sleep too.
All right, I'm going to look for a recipe for dinner tonight. Family, you've been warned. Dr. Marie Pierre Saint-Onge, thank you so much. The book is Eat Better, Sleep Better, and it is available now.
Most Americans, more than half of us, say we do not get enough sleep. That's according to a Gallup poll, and I think people were being truthful. But do not worry, we've got you covered. Sleep psychologist Michael Bruce has an action plan in his new book, Sleep, Drink, Breathe, and Michael Bruce joins us now. The drink section is not about alcohol, unfortunately.
Nope. I'm sorry to say.
Hydration.
Hydration. This is a radically simple approach to wellness.
I love that, radically simple.
I
Exactly.
really appreciate it. Tell us about these pillars, as you put it.
So here's the issue that I kind of came across is I was thinking to myself, what could be the basis? What's the DNA of wellness? If you had to break it all down to get to the bottom of it, what do you have to do? Every day, you have to breathe, you better drink water, and you probably have to sleep. If you can get those 3 things down in a way, shape, and form that's actually working for you, you're really on your road to wellness. Now, one thing people always tell me is like, Michael, I do all those things anyway.
Yeah.
Like, come on, like, do I really need to get in some form of training in them? Here's what I tell people all the time is, If you go out for a jog, you're probably not getting to your personal best anytime soon, right? But if you have the right form and you train in the right way, you can actually accelerate your run. You can have a personal best, whether it's in the gym or the run or whatever, just by making a few small tweaks. That's all I'm asking.
But I thought the book was so good because you give us really practical advice. Because of you, I'm pinching my skin.
Yep.
Because of you, I'm timing my pee. Because of you, I'm looking at the color of my pee.
There you go.
Because of you, I think about how you breathe and how long you breathe. So all of those things are important. Let's talk about pinching your skin. Why is that important? Let's talk about the color of your pee and why you should pay attention.
You bet. So the pinching of the skin that Gayle's talking about is what's called the skin tugger test. What you do is you take your hand like this, and you do a quick pinch, lift the skin up, and then drop. If it goes back to form within 2 seconds, you're probably well hydrated. Now, to be fair, this can vary depending upon your age, depending upon medical conditions that you have, but as a general idea, this is one way to understand your hydration.
Why does how long we pee and the color of our pee matter?
So this is interesting. So
I did this at Thanksgiving.
I know, she was telling me before, like,
Yes.
got the whole crew to do it.
You'll never think of 21 seconds any different. You'll think
So
of it
there's a
differently.
great zoological study that shows that no mammal can urinate for longer than about 21 seconds. So now that I've implanted this, now that I've implanted this into your brain, you are going to now be counting the seconds. What it does is it lets you know if you've actually emptied your bladder or not. Also, the color of your urine turns out to be important. You want it to be a light yellow to a clear. That tells you that you're hydrated. Interestingly, in India, they have color charts on the stalls with different shades of colors, from clear all the way to yellow to orange to blue and green.
If it's green, go to the doctor.
If it's green, it ain't good.
Got big
If it's green,
problems.
it ain't good.
You said think of sleep like free Ozempic.
It's amazing how much you lose weight during sleep, in terms of how that also has an effect on your weight loss later on, in terms of cravings, in terms of appetite. There's a whole host of reasons why, if you're trying to diet, like if your new year, new you is I'm gonna drop 10 or 15 pounds, you better sleep before you do that, because all of your efforts are not going to work well unless you're well slept, and we talk about it in here.
So getting to sleep is important. What's the power down hour?
So this is
10
what
seconds or 15 seconds.
So you need runway to land the plane. Okay, sleep is not an on-off switch, so you need time before you go to bed. So what I tell people is, do yourself a favor. Take that last hour, chop it up into 3 20-minute segments. 20 minutes for just stuff you gotta do, 20 minutes for hygiene, and 20 minutes for some form of meditation, relaxation, prayer, whatever gets you there. If you wanna watch TV, I don't care. I think it's fine.
I'm obligated to chit-chat with my wife for those final 10 minutes.
That's a good thing.
I do. I love her
Obligated.
very much. I love her very much. The book
Expecting
is
another
Sleep,
tweet from
Drink,
Katie
Breathe now. Sleep, Drink, Breathe, on sale now. Why is it that the older I get, the more tired I get, and yet the harder it is to sleep? I'm having trouble sleeping. You may be having trouble sleeping as you get older, and you're not dreaming, literally and figuratively. In fact, research shows between 40 and up to 70% of people 65 and above have chronic sleep issues. Shelby Harris is a board-certified sleep psychologist who wrote the book, The Women's Guide to Overcoming Insomnia, but she's here for tips for everyone on how we can get a more restful night's sleep. So why is it that even though I'm old and tired and other people are even older and more tired, it's harder to sleep as you age?
Yeah, I feel you. Well, there's stress in life, but then as we start to move into our 60s, 70s, you have more issues with the depth of your sleep. So your sleep is just lighter in general, which is part of aging. And as people get older, they nap more during the day a little bit. So it's not that you need drastically less sleep. You just get it more in 24 hours. And then there's other things. There's sleep disorders like insomnia that happens, and then you have to go to the bathroom more at night. And that just happens as you start to get into your 40s. So a lot of that and the changes in your structure too.
Yeah? So do people not sleep as deeply as they get older? Is there some kind of evolutionary reason for that? Or do we know why that is?
Well, the deepest stage of sleep is where your muscles are repairing, you're growing, and as you're getting older, you don't need that ideally as much as you do when you're younger. Younger kids get a lot of deep sleep at night, and then you just wake up a lot more because of pain and movement and having to urinate, that can make it have more disruption as well.
Sometimes I'm shocked by what my kids can sleep through. Like my son will be wailing and my daughter's just like, they share a room and it's
Deep as can be.
right? Okay, so I always thought that as you get older, you don't need as much sleep. Growing up, my mother would wake up super early and I just thought she didn't need that much.
That's not true, right? You get a little less at night, But a lot of older adults, because they don't have the same sort of structure during the day, they nap more during the day.
Just rest your eyes for a moment.
So in a 24, exactly that, like, I'm just resting. 24 hours, they get about the same, maybe a little less. And if a doctor tells you that is normal to get a lot less as you get older, definitely seek some other advice.
You mentioned hormonal changes,
Oh, yeah.
women, menopause. How does that affect things?
So the changes in estrogen and progesterone start to drop. We have more hot flashes, night sweats. You actually have more sleep apnea in women as well, and just more insomnia too.
So what can people do? I mean, I know we know about like keep the room cool, you know, keep it dark, but what are some other practical tips for people to fight this trend and get the sleep they need?
Yeah, so if you wake up a lot in the middle of the night, you might want to think about doing, weirdly, meditation during the day. Because if you have a busy brain, meditating 5 minutes, that's it, during the day can help to actually ease your brain more at night, spending a little less time in bed, watching those naps. And if you've been doing all the sleep hygiene stuff and nothing's working after a few weeks, talk with a doctor, because we do have a lot of treatments like cognitive behavior therapy. If you're insomnia, you might need a sleep study, medication. We have lots of options.
I'm interested in your opinion on sleep trackers because I'm generally opposed for the following reason. I want to know how I feel and let my body tell me if I got enough rest, not let the thing on my wrist tell me.
Exactly. So I 100%. So I am a fan of a tracker if it just helps to give you some information about how you're doing. You're not making sleep a priority. Should you maybe limit the alcohol, stuff like that. But if you have any sleep issues, it can actually highlight that for you and make you more anxious about your sleep.
That makes sense.
If you know how you feel during the day, we were able to sleep for ages without the trackers, that not everyone really needs them.
So what about kids? Because, you know, my daughter spends a lot of time sleeping in our bed, especially because she's a little bit sick and now she's just milking it. She comes in with her blanket. It's so cute. But she gets in between us. And next thing I know, I have a foot like in my face or my back. Why do they insist on like sleeping horizontally or ending up in all sorts of positions?
It's that deep sleep. They have much more deep sleep, and they just move a lot more at night as they're kind of developing. They have no idea they're doing any of that. I cannot share a bed with even my 9-year-old now. They still move around a lot at night. It's totally normal. If you notice any daytime effects from it, you might want to talk to their pediatrician, but in general, it's totally fine.
All right, we need you to settle a control room debate that they're having right now down the hall.
Okay.
Socks or no socks for sleep?
I wear socks, but I keep my room really cold, and I like it. A lot of people don't like it, but it can actually help some people sleep a little bit better because you can keep your room colder, and then it helps you to actually adjust throughout the night.
And it's cozy.
You're a socks person?
You know what? For a while, I did one sock. Isn't that weird?
One? I've never heard that one before.
Because I thought 2 was too little, you know.
I do no socks, but I have the 1 foot out of the blanket to control temperature.
Right.
Or both in if you're really cold, you want to get a little warmer. Anyway.
I love
Shelby Harris, thank you so much. That was fascinating.
1 in 3 American adults reports having trouble sleeping. Poor sleep is linked to an increased risk of high blood pressure, heart inflammation, and diabetes. Shelby Harris is a behavioral sleep psychologist and clinical associate professor at Albert Einstein College of Medicine. Good morning.
Thank you so much for having me.
So we're fascinated, obviously, by the subject here on this show. Explain how sleep impacts our heart.
So, like you had said in the intro, sleep really does impact our blood pressure, it causes inflammation, and then when we're not sleeping as much, we tend to have more of the hormone ghrelin that makes us want to eat more, and less of the one that tells us leptin that tells us to stop eating, so we eat more, we go for the higher sugar, higher fat foods, and that can lead to obesity and diabetes problems. So sleep is really important in regulating that aspect.
But a lot of people have problems with sleep disorders, like sleep apnea. That really is a contributor to heart problems. AFib and a number of others.
100%. Insomnia, which is not getting enough sleep even though you're trying, and sleep apnea, which is that snoring, that pauses in breathing that happens for men and women especially, and women don't often get evaluated for it. And that poor quality sleep really can influence our heart health as well.
I mean, I sit here looking at you, Shelby. I really do feel like dead man walking because I get an average of 4 to 5 hours of sleep.
How you do it.
I know it's not healthy. I get that. But I don't even know what I can do about it as long as I'm on this schedule. And you throw in hot flashes and it's a hot mess. So it's not just the quantity that's bad. You also have to focus on the quality of sleep that you get too. Correct?
Yes, 100%. So what I also say to people is that, first of all, we need to try and get more sleep. That's important. But first, if you're struggling with that, work on the quality. So things like working on limiting alcohol, limiting caffeine, limiting the screens before bed, lots of liquids. That stuff is really important as well. And then once you have better quality, then we try to work on the quantity of sleep if possible.
So Shelby, Libby, here, a real life example. To do this show, I try to get 8 hours before I wake up, but oftentimes if I try to hit that mark, let's say going to bed at 8:30, I actually wake up way before.
Yes, like
I
at 1
have
or 2
to.
in the morning.
Right, so sometimes I'm like, maybe I should go to bed at 11, which will give me at least the full 5 hours that I might be able to get.
Yes, and that sometimes is better initially. And then what we actually try to do is, for some people, I might have them go to bed later, and then I might slowly have them go to bed earlier over time, as opposed to that shifting back and forth, because that can create a lot of problems for people as well.
What's your take on sleeping pills? I don't use, I'm afraid to use them, but what's your take on sleeping pills?
I think when it comes to sleep aids, they're not ideal for most people. We really try, there's an evidence-based treatment that I actually specialize in called cognitive behavior therapy for insomnia. So we try that first, 4 to 8 sessions for most people. There's apps,
What
there's
happens
books.
when you do that?
You work on it's not just sleep hygiene, but you work on the timing of sleep, like we were just talking about. We work on thoughts about sleep. A lot of people put pressure on themselves to sleep, and they worry about what's going to happen if they don't sleep, and so we work on that aspect. But it's a very short-term treatment that has a lot of data behind it. And then if that's not working, then we might go to sleeping pills if we have to, but we really try to not use them initially.
I did, when I was in business, I used Ambien and Lunesta, and it did help me get to sleep quicker, but my days were terrible, and I just got rid of them because I didn't feel good.
Yeah, I often talk about sleep. Like, we want to sleep at night, but what's it supposed to do? It's supposed to help us with the day. So if you feel like you're a walking zombie because of some of these things, what's the point? What's the point?
Just real quick, sleeping, you talk about eating right before.
Yeah.
I can't
now that
believe
doesn't make sense.
That doesn't.
Like full
then you're a fatty McFat fat.
I think you want to limit heavy meals, big meals, like a dinner before bed. But for some people, a little light snack, that mix of a protein and a carb. So for me, I often have like a yogurt that's sugar-free. I put a little bit of peanut butter and some raspberries in it. That's a really good mix to help you throughout the night so you don't wake up hungry, which a lot of people do as well. But
really
light
good
snack.
Shelby, thank you so much. Shelby Harris.
If you're a sleep-deprived parent like me and my husband, please listen. We are talking about sleep training methods aimed at helping babies learn how to independently fall asleep and stay asleep on their own. Some parents see that as the key to catching restful Z's, while others argue that sleep training can cause stress and anxiety for a baby. So joining us now is Shelby Harris. She is a board-certified sleep psychologist. Shelby, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for coming. Please come to my house. We need you.
I have been there.
Thank you for telling me you've been there because you know I think that validates what so many parents are going through. But to start us off, we want to do a little true or false with you about sleep training because there are a lot of myths out there. So number one, sleep training is synonymous with cry it out.
No, that is false. So there are so many different methods out there, and it's really about finding what works for you and your family. It's intervening somehow so that you're trying to move their sleep better. But there's many different methods. It doesn't have to be crying it out. It can be checking, lots of different things you can do.
Once a baby is sleep trained, they sleep through the night?
Oof, I wish that was the case. But they get sick from time to time, and that can throw it off. And also developmentally, they start to talk, they start to walk, that can throw it off, and you have to redo it.
All right, last one. Sleep training can harm children in the long term.
There is no evidence that it does any harm. What we do know is that it actually benefits the child and the parent. It's really about finding what works for you and your family, and not doing something and having sleep loss in the long term is actually the bigger problem.
Well, hold on. Okay, but if there's no evidence of harm in sleep training, why is it so controversial?
Because nobody wants to hear their baby cry.
Because yes.
Right? For prolonged periods of time.
Great question. There have been some studies in the past that have been taken out of context a lot of time, and some of them have been debunked, actually. But there's so much noise on social media that people still run with that. Even there was one study about cortisol levels that actually has since been debunked, and even the original study author on that said that should not have been taken into the sleep training realm. But there's a lot of noise around it. It's really about finding what works for you and your family.
So there's one extreme, or I should say one end of the spectrum, to use neutral language, where doctors say, let your kid cry.
My doctor has a 3-step process. You put the kid to bed, close the door, come back in the morning.
Yeah,
Done.
that's cry it out.
Yeah.
That's essentially it. And if that works for you and you want to do it, go ahead.
And so what's the other end of the spectrum? Like how, just to get a sense of how many different methods there are.
Well, it's really, when we talk about sleep training, it's typically more like that or checking throughout the night. Like you can go in and check as often as you want. Then the other side is more sleeping with your baby, holding your baby throughout the night until they sleep. That is not, there are a lot of people who want to do that, but for some kids, you're going to keep doing that for a long time. Not everyone, but it's what, like I keep saying, what works for you and your family. The one that you were talking about tends to work the fastest, though.
So I think so much of this is about sleep training the parents because you can know what to, I like that look, you're like, You can know what to do, but you have to have the willpower to do it and be consistent, and for all the caregivers in the household.
Yeah.
What's your tip on sleep training parents?
So it's really consistency is the key. So you have to, and things happen, right? Like late night, Halloween, for example, happens, late nights out. But you have to think about being consistent with the bedtime. A bedtime routine is really important. Trying to limit the screens before bed, like not having them fall asleep with an iPad in their face is really important. And then for younger kids, visual bedtime charts are really helpful. So we're going to do this, 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 this on our way into bed and really setting limits because they are going to push and push and push.
So we slept trained both of our kids.
Yeah.
Both of our kids still have issues and wake up during the night.
Yeah.
Do you have to do it over and over again, the sleep training? Like, doesn't it stick?
It doesn't stick. So you really do have to do it over and over again. You want to make sure the beginning of the night is nice and solid. And if they're doing well at the beginning of the night, it tends to generalize to the middle of the night. And then there are things you can do in the middle of the night too with how you respond. And you can sleep train in the middle of the night as well.
What's the deal with I have a 3- and 5-year-old in addition to the older kids. What's the deal with like the insane zoomies that happen the second you go upstairs to try to go to bed? It's like they could be zonked on the couch, but then when it's bedtime, they're just absolutely nuts.
A second wind. Yeah. What's the deal? They know that they're about to go to bed and they want to just have the most energy possible. There is a second wind, but you have to really help do that rigid routine. Well, not rigid, but that strict routine as best you can. And that will hopefully calm them down. But deep breathing, meditation, you can teach these kids these. It's hard. I mean, it's like the witching hour.
Currently, the strict routine is escalating, raising voice, and threats of all the toys are going to be gone tomorrow. I overthrow
like Halloween candy.
And I get that. I said, I've been there. But when you do that, what happens? They tend to then
get
worse, right? So it's sleep training yourself. You have to be aware of your own response because they thrive on all that.
Oh my God, they do. They know your weakness.
Oh, they totally do.
Yeah.
So.
Last question. Can you sleep train a toddler?
Yes. There's never too late to do any of this stuff.
I need your phone number.
Never too late. Stays out too late. So, Shelby Harris, thank you very much. That'll do it for us.
Thank you.
And many parents already are worried their kids do not get enough sleep. In fact, new research shows more than 18% of children aged 5 to 9 are being given melatonin, a well-known sleep aid. And more than 19% of adolescents take it as well. Let's talk about it with CBS News medical contributor Dr. Celine Gounder, editor-at-large for public health at KFF. How you doing? Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, so is melatonin safe for kids? Let's just jump right in.
It does seem to be safe for short-term use, but there are a couple caveats there. Number one, it is a hormone. So whenever you're talking about giving kids hormones, you want to be especially careful, especially in kids who are prepubescent, so not yet adolescents. And then secondly, melatonin is not FDA regulated, which means that the rigorous clinical trials that we need for drugs that are FDA approved just haven't been done for melatonin. So we just don't have the same kind of data on the safety and effectiveness of melatonin.
Why does it work?
Yeah.
Well, melatonin is a hormone which regulates your sleep-wake cycle, so your circadian rhythms. So as the sun sets, as lights dim, as it gets later in the day, your melatonin levels go up, telling your body it's time to sleep.
Are there long-term health effects for children or adults? A lot of adults use it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just don't have great data. There is some signal that melatonin use could trigger precocious puberty. Again, it's a hormone.
What is precocious puberty?
So you go through puberty early. You go through those hormonal changes early. So there's some signals that might cause that.
So I got to do a little cleanup on aisle 4 here. When I was introducing this segment, going to commercial break, I said I give in sometimes. I meant to say I would want to give in sometimes.
Oh, okay. I mean, no judgment if you do.
Katie,
Did your wife call you?
I do bedtime. Katie Katie's home right now doing mornings, and I do bedtime.
She's like, what?
And she's gonna be like, what is going on in there? Okay, now, but I do open the medicine cabinet when we're brushing teeth, and I see, because we have melatonin in the house, because we'll take it sometimes, and I thought about it. With younger kids, though, just it's not happening, right? What's the age that you would even consider giving it to your kids?
Yeah, I mean, some people are even giving melatonin to pre-K kids.
Really?
So, yeah, at very young ages. But again, I would really be cautious about using it in somebody who has not gone through puberty yet, and use it even in teens on a very occasional basis.
With little kids, I guess the bigger worry actually is they're also gummies, right? They look like candy. They are candy. They taste amazing.
And they can just get in there. What if a kid accidentally takes melatonin?
So the CDC has observed that over the last several years, we've seen a big increase in accidental ingestions of melatonin by kids, in part because you have these gummies. A lot of it involves the gummies.
And they're taken to the emergency room. So.
Yeah, and so fortunately, most of them do not end up hospitalized, but some of the signs that this could have been a dangerous ingestion include excessive drowsiness, confusion, hallucinations, seizures. So you can see some real side effects with this.
How do you release it naturally? If someone wants to take the natural approach and they don't want to take any drugs, is there a way to just help your melatonin release?
Because kids get the zoomies in the evening, and they're just running around, the kitchen's a mess, banging cabinets and everything.
And Tony's like, where is the melatonin?
I got a frying pan. Whatever. Go to sleep.
Knock them out. Well, remember, melatonin levels go up later in the day as the sun dims, as lights go down. Okay. So just turning off lights and turning off those screens, which are blasting lights into your eyes, that can make a big difference.
Yeah, and also working for CBS Mornings, because we are always tired. Dr. Selene Gounder, thank you so much.